The Hidden Prophecy of the Three Veils. Explained: a guide to spiritual awakening. A veil. It separates, it conceals, it protects. It marks the sacred and the profane. But what if the most important veil in your life isn't one you can see? What if it's a barrier woven into the very fabric of your reality? Ancient texts, from the deserts of the Exodus to the mystical schools of Gnosticism, speak of a profound journey. It's not a journey to a place, but a journey through. A journey through three successive veils. Each one you pass through reveals a deeper layer of truth, a brighter dimension of reality. Most people live and die without ever knowing these veils exist. But for the few who are ready, for the truly awakened, passing through them changes everything. Today, we're going to pull them back one by one. Our journey begins with the most famous veil in history, the paraket, the great curtain of the Jerusalem temple. Now, this wasn't just a piece of fabric. The book of Exodus describes it as a masterpiece of divine engineering, woven from blue, purple, and scarlet thread and fine twined linen. According to ancient Jewish sources, the veil in the later temple was as thick as a man's hand, maybe 4 inches thick, a colossal barrier separating the world of man from the Holy of Holies, the place where the very presence of God was said to dwell. And woven into it were the cherubim, these awesome angelic guardians. They weren't just decoration, they were a message. Just like the cherubim who guarded the way back to the tree of life in Eden, these figures on the veil declared, "You are separate, you cannot enter." This veil was the ultimate physical symbol of the separation between humanity and God caused by sin. But there's a deeper hidden meaning here that only the mystics understood. Ancient historians like Josephus and Philo tell us that the 4 colors of the veil represented the 4 elements of creation. The blue represented the air, the purple was the sea, the scarlet symbolized fire, and the white linen came from the earth. The veil was the material world. It was a tapestry of all physical reality, hanging between humanity and the infinite. The act of hanging it in the tabernacle is even described with the same Hebrew verb, badal, that God used in Genesis to divide or separate the light from the darkness. It was a constant, physical reminder of the boundary between the visible world and the invisible. For centuries, only one person, the high priest, could pass through this veil, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement. For everyone else, God was on the other side of an impenetrable wall. Until one moment changed everything. The Gospels tell us that at the very moment of Christ's death, the veil of the temple was torn in two. And listen to this, it was torn from top to bottom. From top to bottom, this wasn't a human act. This was a divine declaration. The barrier is gone. The separation is over. The way into the direct presence of God is now open for everyone, for all time. This is the first unveiling. It grants us access. So the way is open. Access has been granted. But if that's true, why do so many of us still feel so distant? Why does reading scripture sometimes feel like reading a code we can't crack? Why does God still feel veiled? This brings us to the second, more subtle veil. The Apostle Paul talks about this in his second letter to the Corinthians. He says that even when the scriptures, the Old Testament, are read, the same veil remains. A veil covers their hearts. Paul isn't talking about a physical cloth here. He's talking about a veil over the mind, a kind of spiritual blindness. But it's not just about not knowing enough. It's deeper. This veil is woven from our fears, our pride, our preconceived ideas, and our deepest insecurities. It's the mask we wear to hide our flaws and feel accepted. It's the filter of, "I'm not good enough," or "I have to earn God's love," that colors everything we see. So, how do we lift this veil? Paul gives us the key. He says, "But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away." That word, turns, is everything. It's a conscious shift in perspective. It's choosing to see differently. It's like, you ever have one of those moments where you've believed something your whole life, and then one new piece of information just shatters your entire worldview? Maybe you misunderstood a friend's intentions for years, and when you finally learned the truth, you looked back and saw all your past interactions in a completely new, clarifying light. That's what turning to the Lord does for our spiritual sight. It reframes everything. When we turn, when we are willing to see past our own hardened minds, the veil is lifted, the code is cracked, and we are able to behold the truth with unveiled faces. This is the second unveiling. It moves us from simple access to true understanding. We have access, we have understanding, but there is one final veil, the most intimate and the most difficult to remove, because this veil is you, or rather the you think you are. Paul points to this in another letter. He says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This isn't just about learning new things, it's about the complete overhaul of your internal operating system. This leads to one of the most radical statements in all of Scripture, from Galatians 2:20. "I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." This is the third and final unveiling. In many spiritual traditions, it's called ego death. It's the surrender of that separate, small self that is always striving, always afraid, always wanting. And this isn't some abstract idea for monks on a mountaintop. The renewing of your mind is the daily practice of this crucifixion. This mystical state of union is the result of the active daily discipline of renewing the mind. It's catching a negative, fearful, or prideful thought and consciously replacing it with God's truth. When this final veil is removed, you move beyond just having access to God or understanding God. You arrive at union with God. This is what it means to be truly awakened. You see with God's eyes, you love with God's heart. It is no longer you who live, but the divine life living through you. So that is the hidden prophecy. A journey through 3 veils. The first veil was torn, granting us access. The second veil is lifted when we turn, granting us understanding. And the third veil dissolves as we are renewed, bringing us into union. So the question for you right now is, which veil are you standing before? Are you still standing outside the temple, believing God is far away? Or have you stepped through, but find your vision clouded by the veil of the mind? Or are you on that final sacred ground, learning to surrender the veil of the self? There's no judgment in that question, only an invitation. The journey of awakening is the most important journey you will ever take. Be patient with yourself, be brave, and keep turning toward the light. I would be genuinely honored to hear about your journey. In the comments below, tell us, which of these 3 veils resonates most with where you are right now? Your story could be the light someone else needs to see. Thank you for watching.